Are you buying a house or are you buying a real estate deal? That is what we are talking about in today's episode of the Never Lose a Deal podcast. If you're new to this podcast, understand that this podcast is for real estate investors, experienced ones who desire to expand and scale their real estate portfolio using creative financing, different forms of financing. And that is what I primarily talk about on this podcast. And that is what I am going to talk about today, which is, are you buying a deal? Or are you buying a house? And that is so important because one great thing about the internet is that it will confuse a lot of people. And that is why here on this podcast, my goal is always to bring context to a conversation. I am going to hope that I never say things that would keep the end user in a constant loophole. And so that is why I do these podcast episodes. So let's get into it. But before I do, let's talk about some of the recent changes that are taking place in the real estate industry, and that has to do with fencing. Now, if you don't know what fencing is part of the US government, is the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. And that is all about being able to keep an eye out on money laundering and fraud in the marketplace. This is a government sector that manages that. Well, earlier last month, they made a change for real estate investors who buy non-finance transactions in the single family to multifamilies, one family to four families, homes, or should I say, properties that are purchased non finance. Now, what is non finance? That means that there is no type of financial instrument backing those assets that are being purchased. So, a lot of times, those assets are purchased with cash. Well, entities. Now, this ruling was only for entities, it was not for single people. So, it was for entities. Entities that are LLCs, that are trusts, that decide to purchase non finance in a real estate transaction. Now, this doesn't have to do with syndications, large multifamily deals, as I mentioned, between one to, I think, four units. Well, anyway, FinCEN decided to be able to have corporate transparency, that these transactions that do take place, that title companies and attorneys would have to get and provide disclosure of those individuals in the LLC and in the trust. So, full transparency was supposed to happen in March 1st. Well, a federal judge, a federal judge in Texas decided to halt that ruling and said, no way, I'm going to halt this ruling. Fenton is going to go back to the drawing board and change this ruling. And so, currently, right now, it's supposed to take place today on the 23rd, that this ruling is in place. So, what that means is the full transparency does not have to happen. And so, this federal judge put the halt on it. It will come back up within a month in April, where Fenton will and this federal judge will come to some type of agreement on what's next. And so that is something that may affect you, because I know I work with a lot of investors who do non-finance transactions. That's primarily what this show is about. Never lose a deal, doing things creatively. Yes, there are some transactions that are backed by financing and funding, and I talk about those, but a lot of times there are deals that are structured and put together where financing is not in place. And a lot of times they are going to be non finance. So if you are a real estate investor who is in that space that are buying and purchasing or expanding your real estate portfolio, and you are using and you are taking part in a non-finance transaction, this is something that you and your attorney need to pay close attention to. I know that there were recently, when this ruling took place, real estate investors that I've worked with that did some transactions, non-finance, had to go and put these full disclosures in place because title companies' attorneys knew that they would get fined if they did this. And so it is real. Yes, it did actually take took place. I know one may say, well, I bought something and my attorney and title company didn't ask me to do full disclosure. Like I said, maybe you didn't meet those requirements. But I do know that I have witnessed where there were some transactions where full transparency did take place. And that is going to lead me into today's topic. Are you buying a real estate house or are you buying a deal? And as with everything in the internet, one thing is for certain, context is never there. And so I find with having conversations on a daily basis, because I do pick up the phone, I do talk to people, I don't get my information by listening to other people in the marketplace. I'm actually creating a lot of what I talk about here in this podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, based on conversations and what I see out there in the market. And so, one thing that I'm noticing is that when I talk to people, a lot of people like to use interchangeably a house and a deal. And I'm here to tell you that a house and a deal are not the same. They are not the same. I don't care what social media and the internet wants to tell you, they are not the same. And that is what I'm going to do today. I'm going to give you a small distinction between them. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, anyone can go. Anyone can hire a real estate agent, go through the MLS, maybe go through Zillow, and find a house. There is no difficulty with finding a house. And I've had conversations because, like I said, people will come to me and they will want to get their deal financed. And really, what they want to do is just really, uh, they want to buy a house. And hey, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But when they want to be able to do things creatively, like I mentioned to you when I talked about the non-cash, non-finance transactions, in order to do anything creatively, you it should be a deal. And the way that it is a deal, it is how you structure it. It is how you structure it. And one of the main ways of structuring it is, how do you know it's a deal? Meaning, have are you going to make money on the buy? And I know one may say, "Well, Lori, that's hard to do if it's a fix or flip. You can't really tell if it's going to make you money because you haven't did the deal." No, that's not the case. That's not the case, because if that was the case, lenders would not lend out money if they had no idea if they were going to make money. No, that is what talking heads on the internet tell you. You gotta do the fix or flip to know you're gonna have money. No, if you have a deal, you know if it's a deal based on the numbers. And so when a person says, what is the distinction between buying a house and buying a deal? It is going to be based on numbers. A lot of times, individuals who are buying a home, like I said, you hire a real estate agent, you find something on the MLS, that a lot of times you're not running numbers. You're not running numbers. And one of the biggest distinctions is a house hacker versus an investor. Don't get me wrong, house hacking is a great strategy if your goal is to create some type of real estate portfolio, financial stability, whatever that case may be. But anyone knows who started off as a house hacker, they started off with buying a house. A lot of times it may have been with conventional and or FHA financing. They may have bought a multi family, because a lot of times, the whole house hacking strategy is to be able to live in one unit, rent out the others. But everyone will tell you. I know that there are some outliers, but 95 is 5% of the people who do house hacking did not underwrite the deal. They did not do that. What they did was they leaned on the expertise of the real estate agent, was able to get financing, and they purchased that home. That is not the same as finding a deal, because when you are financing a deal, are there deals on the MLS? Yes, but you are not relying on the expertise of the real estate agent to help you find a deal. I'm going to use myself, case in point. Many moons ago, when I first started out with wholesaling, now this is during the time of the real estate crash, but at that time, Dodd Frank had not was not put in place. So at that time, you literally could buy a home from the bank. Now, for those who say, "Oh no, you can't do that," da, 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 like I said, this was some time ago. There was a time where you could buy a home directly from the bank. Now, of course, it may have been listed on the MLS because banks are not in the business of real estate. They're not managing assets. So, yes, there was a real estate agent who was handling these bank owned properties. Well, of course, I'm, starting my real estate journey, and I'm looking to wholesale properties. Well, I connected with a real estate agent, and I told that real estate agent my criteria. I said, I want to be able to look at houses in this range. I knew my numbers. Everything that I was telling that agent, I knew how much money I wanted to make as a wholesaler, and how much profit was going to be left over for the investor. Now keep in mind, I was not in the financing area. So I was not looking at it from a standpoint of, you know, am I going to rehab the property? But I knew the numbers enough that in order for there to be profit for me, there had to be profit in it for the investor. And that was all a spreadsheet. That was all me working numbers or getting a pen and a paper and being able to calculate something. Well, going back to my example, remember I said there was a real estate agent provided me with the criteria. I told her I need very little maintenance. If you send me the properties by email, I would look, and if it meets my criteria, then I'll schedule something with you, because I told that real estate agent, I'm very, I'm an easy person to work with. I'm not going to take up a lot of your time as long as you meet this criteria. um I'll make it a win-win for both of us. Well, lo and behold, the agent sent me properties. To this day, I still know this agent sent me properties, and then I found deals that worked for me. Some I submitted offers for through the agent. Some got accepted, some didn't. On our first deal that we did together, after it closed, the HUD was settled. The agent said to me, "You made more money on the deal than I did." Now, this is no stab at real estate agents. This is no sly at them, because I am a big advocate that, whatever they get paid, they are more than, right, have the right to have that. The point that I'm making in the story is that the reason why I made more money is because I knew the numbers. I knew that it was a deal. Now keep in mind, this agent had the same tools that I didn't have, but they couldn't get a deal. I didn't have access to the MLS. Didn't have the access to the MLS. I didn't have the ability to communicate back and forth to the bank. The real estate agent had that. But what I had was, I had the ability to understand numbers and to put a deal together, because from the agent standpoint, all they saw was a house. It was just a house. They didn't see the deal. They saw the house. There's a difference seeing the house versus seeing the deal. Because if deals were easy to spot, everybody would have deals. There are still deals in this marketplace with everything going wrong, with unrest throughout the country, unrest in the world, interest rates are rising, rehabs have slowed down, cost of um cost of materials is up, but deals are still being made. So how is it that this real estate agent had everything at their fingertips, access to the MLS, which is what I used, relationships to be able to communicate with the agent who was selling the property to submit the deals, but was not doing deals, and got mad at me at the closing because she saw that I made more than her, because I knew what a deal looks like. And so that is the point of this conversation today. Don't let the internet fool you. There is a difference between buying a house and finding deals. And everybody can't find deals. Everybody can't find deals. Everybody don't know what a deal looks like. And we're not even going to put the financing part in it. So if you can't find deals, you can't analyze deals, then you're not going to creatively know what's possible with the financing. And that is why I'm a big advocate of it's easy to say, oh, with this, you got that. With AI is helping me do this, is helping me do that. And I said, you know what? AI is helping people. They say an AI is helping them find deals, analyze deals, find lenders for deals. But ain't nobody closing no deals. So, so how is that possible? Because it is not as easy as it sounds. And the simplification of things is the reason why most people are confused. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that it is hard, a person can't figure out. I'm not going to say that. But what I am going to say is the unglamorous part is usually the part that most people don't want to do. They don't want to do that. It is easy to say, let me find a real estate agent and have them to find me homes, and then all they're going to do is either introduce me to a lender, or I'm going to find one by doing a AI search or a Google search, and boom, I have a deal. It's not like that. And now in this market, more than ever, it's definitely not like that. That is why many people will be caught behind the eight ball, because they think just because you have a house, you found the deal. And I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, finding a house and finding a deal is not the same. And that is what we discussed on this podcast, on the Never Lose a Deal podcast. And that is my message for you today. They are two separate things. But as always, if you want to learn more about me, please go to, it's scrolling right here on the screen. If you are listening on the audio of the podcast, it is funds.neverloseadeal.com. There you will learn more about different ways you can finance your real estate deals. If you just want to learn about the podcast, as always, you can go to Never Lose a Deal podcast to learn more about me or the podcast if this is your first time listening to me. As always, looking forward to sharing more insight in the world of creative financing, in the world of putting deals together here on the Never Lose a Deal podcast. Until the next time, I will see you then.